Welcome to the Field of 68 after dark. It is hump day. Kind of a hump day slate tonight. I'm not going to lie. Couple big games on the schedule, but they weren't exactly the most exciting college basketball games you'll ever see. But that doesn't mean that changes how we are here to talk about it all and break it all down for you. My name is Greg Waddell. I got Patric Young. I got LaVall Jordan here with me. And as always, we are powered by Bet Rivers. You can find us on the SiriusXM app. If you want to watch us, do so at the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button while you are there as well. And tonight, we've got a great agenda for you. We're going to talk through some of the best teams in the country. We're going to play a little game of contender or pretender. And I'm going to do my typical host mode thing where I force these guys not to take the politically correct answer here. I can't wait for it, gentlemen. But let's start with the toast that we always start the show with. PY, your team was in action tonight, so I feel obligated to throw it over to you and see where you want to go with this. Who are you toasted to tonight, my friend?
You weren't trying to imply I need to give a toast to someone on the Gators offense, their team today, were you?
Of course not.
I'm going to go with a team toast. Tennessee is the sixth team in the last decade to have 7 games where they force 15 turnovers and force so that's 15 forced turnovers and 50 or less points. 6 teams to do that in the last decade. So hats off to them. Tennessee's defense is back. I was worried about that coming into this season, if they'd be able to bring it back like last year. It looks like they're locked and loaded and ready to go.
Cheers to the Vols.
I got it.
Yeah, I'm not drinking either, LaVall. You don't got to force it unless you want to. Go for it, though. You're up next. What you got, LaVall?
Am I up or are you going?
You take it.
You're taking. I struggled. I'm gonna go with, since a Big East. I'm coming out of the Big East. Cam Whitmore, welcome to college basketball in his second game tonight against Penn, which, by the way, a couple of years ago when they struggled, Penn beat them in one of the in the game after they won the national title, and they came back, and it was kind of just Phil Booth and Eric Paschal and everybody else. Sadiq Bey was a freshman. A little bit like this team where they had 2 guys. So Penn's a formidable opponent, and Cam Whitmore goes for 21 tonight in his second college basketball game. And everybody look out, because for whatever you were saying about Villanova on the front end of the season, I don't know how Justin Moore will be when he gets back, but my man Cam Whitmore, I watched him. Did you see the play? I don't know if you're watching this, Patrick. He shot, missed, and tip dunked his own missed shot. One-handed. Did you see that? I mean,
I didn't see that one.
I saw it. It was crazy, stupid.
And so I know where they are right now record-wise, but he is a difference maker. So toast to Cam Whitmore.
Cheers to Whitmore. I've been a vocal critic of Villanova this year, LaVall. I don't know that you and I have ever talked about it like this, but I'll tell you what, I saw just in the ESPN app, I saw the score midway through the first half of that game. I thought, let me flip over and do a little hate watching here. Let me watch Villanova struggle again. And then all of a sudden, Cam Whitmore's popping off my screen. Like, this is a little different than the first couple of weeks.
So let me ask you this. Here's the thing. They're 1-3 in games decided by 5 points or less. You think Cam Whitmore would have made a difference?
I tell you what, I was at the one in East Lansing where they almost came back from double digits to catch my Spartans. And yeah, he absolutely would have made a difference down the stretch of that game. That's a good pick, LaVall. That's a very good pick. If you guys are going to do, I feel like we got our SEC guy doing the SEC toast, the Big East guy doing the Big East toast. I feel obligated to stick in my Big Ten country here then. And it's a good segue into the first thing we're going to talk about tonight. I got a toast to Zach Edey, who right now is the National Player of the Year.
Absolutely.
And I don't think many people really saw this coming. Like, I think everybody, rightfully so, talked about how good he was last season and how good he could be this season. Now that you get Travion Williams out of there, you get Jaden Ivey off there, and they need someone to just play through. And I think all offseason when I talked about Zach Edey, it was like, imagine if he could play 32 minutes a game. Imagine if they just built the entire team, the entire offense around him at the usage he was at last year, but for longer. And I think we all shrugged it off, thinking there's no way someone that massive could really do it. Credit to him and his conditioning and Matt Painter and the whole staff for what they've assembled around him, because this Purdue team, to me, has taken a big step forward from where they were last year, and it starts with the monster in the middle, Zach Edey. That's my cheers of the night. I'll even fake drink to you, Mr. Edey.
There we go. Appreciate that.
Can I double toast? I was this close, and I was this close to toasting the Pitt.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Well, they're about to win. If they can pull, they just went up one big shot, and they're about to win 6 in a row here. If they can get this done, there's 9 seconds to go at Vandy. So I didn't want to toast to them before the game was over, Jeff Capel and Pitt. But if they get this done, they're gonna run off 6 straight.
LaVall, you got it in the background. You watching right now?
Yeah.
I mean, can we throw you on the spot? I've heard you on the play-by-play lately. You've been doing your broadcasting thing. Let's get a little game call from LaVall here.
They got 9.7 seconds to go, and Vandy just got the ball up and called timeout. So Stack's drawing up something here. Pitt, and I don't know Pitt's roster like that. I gotta watch them. The kid just hit a big-time pull-up jump shot to go up 1. They were down 9, about a minute and a half ago. So they made a run here to come back.
Shout out Capel, man. 6 straight. That would be something from where that group has been the last couple of seasons.
Capel was my assistant coach when I played USA 18 and under. Team that had who do we have? Kyrie Irving, Vanderbilt, Austin Rivers, Tony Mitchell, Jeremy Richmond. We had Doug McDermott. We had a squad. And Coach Capel, fantastic dude. Hoping nothing but success.
Not bad. That's not bad.
There's more guys I'm forgetting right now, but yeah, it was Myers Leonard was on that team. He's still in the league.
Yeah, Big Ten guy. By the way, LaVall, I have the game on in the background in my room here as well. We've got Vanderbilt going to the line. For any of you sickos out there that are just waiting on pins and needles to hear what happens in this Pitt Vanderbilt game, Vanderbilt to the free throw line. 1.1 seconds left in this game, with 2 shots here to potentially take the lead and win the game. They make the first. That's Tyron Lawrence at the line. And if he makes the second, highly likely Vanderbilt is going to escape with a win here. We'll see what happens.
What's going through your mind right now at a free throw line situation like this?
Which side am I on? Vandy?
You're on the side that you're stepping up to the line after getting fouled to hopefully win this game.
Well, I've been there, so Pat's being funny right now because I've been there and I missed the free throws versus Florida years ago when Mike Miller. I was 83% from the line, hadn't shot a free throw all night, and then Mike Miller comes down and hits the floater to go on to lose to Sparty. And I know you're a Michigan guy. They went all the way to the championship game, lost to Sparty. Mateen Cleave.
I might not have been a Gator if you made those free throws. I might not have become a Gator. So, it was a whole butterfly effect.
It's funny.
It's a full circle moment here.
1.1. We'll see Capel last time out.
Yeah, Pitt at the drawing board.
This is where you wish they could advance the ball in college basketball.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Right, Pat,
would you prefer that?
You played in the league. Well, it'd be, how exciting. Now you got a half court play with 1.1 on the clock, down 1. There's not a lot you can do here. Home run plays, they're probably
not really anything you can really do here.
Yeah, throw it long, and you got time to catch, turn, and shoot. 1.1 on the clock, but you can't really make a pass. If you pass it in behind half court, you got 1 dribble. But if you were advancing it and taking it out on the side OB, now you got options. You lob to the rim. You can get somebody off a screen. You could slip a screen.
Absolutely. One of my I guess my least favorite memories of all time. I've been a huge Spurs fan majority of my life, watching some great Western Conference Finals battles between the Lakers and the Spurs, and when Derek Fisher came off with 0.4, man.
That was unreal.
To this day, I still hurt for that, because that would have been Spurs. They would have got another chip right there for sure. But that's why, to your point, my generation, I didn't see it when it happened, but you can attest to it when Christian Laettner hit a shot off the full court pass. Like the rarity for something like that, actually.
The Bryce Drew home run play, you've seen that. But you got to be able to catch pass. You probably got time for a Laettner. You got 1 dribble. But it'll be interesting here. to see what happens. And
you might be a little behind me here, LaVall, because I just saw it happen.
oh,
Not to spoil anything, but
I'm a half second behind you.
yeah, you'll get LaVall's live reaction to this in a moment here. They did complete the full court pass. They got a semi look. It ends up being blocked at the buzzer. Don't know that it would have even gotten off. So Vanderbilt escapes with a win.
If you catch it, you got to shoot it. You can't pass it.
Right.
Marquette had it the other day against Wisconsin. It's like your first thing is your inbounder has to be able to. You practice that pass, Patric. Right? You guys probably did it. Like you got to try guys out to make the baseball pass full court and see who your best passer is.
Yeah. Shout out to the best passer I've ever watched from my team, Isaiah Livers, baseball player, Kalamazoo resident, Michigan. He had a big moment in March. We know what we're talking about here. All right, let's jump in. We've had enough play-by-play here, although shout out to the Vanderbilt fans that are watching. I'm sure they're celebrating right now. Cheers to you. Let's move into my pretender or contender game. So I want to go through. I've got a list here of roughly about 7 teams that I think fall anywhere from top 3, top 4 in the country down to 10, 11, 12 range. And I'm talking contender as in not, are they good right now necessarily? Because all these teams are good right now. If they're ranked that high, we respect them for what they are. I want to talk about how you see this team growing over the course of the season. Are you taking them seriously as a threat to win a national championship this season? So that's the bar. That's a high bar. Not talking even Final Four, maybe win a couple games in March. Can they be national championship good this season, or do they potentially have a fatal flaw? And you can't escape it. That's the rules. With me hosting tonight, you got to throw them in one of these 2 buckets. All 3 of us will make a pick, and we'll see who comes out on top. So the first team on my list tonight, the Boilermakers. As I mentioned, Zach Edey, the segue here. Tonight, he was magnificent yet again. Huge numbers in the first half of this game. Purdue ends up winning by 19 points. They actually were outscored in the second half. I think they got a lot of guys some rest down the stretch. But Zach Edey, 23 points, 18 rebounds. He's coming off a game 2 games ago where he out-rebounded the entire opposing team. At this point, he's the most unstoppable singular force in the sport, but they've still got that freshman backcourt. They've still got some unproven guys around him that are playing really well right now. Remains to be seen what they'll look like in the grit and the grind of a full Big Ten schedule across the season. So, LaVall, let's go to you first. Pretender or contender for a national championship this year, Purdue Boilermakers?
It's hard to say pretender. I'll qualify it with this. So here's the I'll say contender with a bit of an asterisk because they do have flaws. So when I think, hey, do they have firepower? Right? Multiple ways to score, multiple guys that can beat you. Or do they have the defense? Can they defend at the level, regardless of who they're playing? Do they have a matchup or a dominant player? And then a dynamic guard, right? 1, do they have one? And 2, can they defend against somebody that does have one? So when I look at Purdue, man, they do have a dominant player in Edey. He is right now, if the season stopped, National Player of the Year, hands down. Right, the way he's dominating, 23 points and however many rebounds, and they got the #1 offense in the country right now in Kim Palm. They have weapons, but not like, do they have 3 guys that can go for 30 or 20 plus on a given night? Right, if Edey's having a bad night, can somebody else do the job? Fletcher Lawyer's off the charts right now in terms of, for a freshman, he's shooting 38% from 3, and he's a double-figure scorer, but he's their only other double-figure scorer. And so defensively, they're good. I don't know if they're great. And so if they run into, Daryl Banks again from St. Peter's, right, can they guard? Can they keep those guys in front? Can they defend those guys? Because that's what happened a year ago, even though they had Jaden Ivey. And
Zach.
So I say contender, but if they got to have the right matchups along the way.
Okay.
That's always the case, Coach. What you mean? Always about the matchups.
It is most of the time. There's some teams, it's like it doesn't matter who they're playing. They've always, it doesn't matter who they're playing. I mean, and some teams are that good, rare, but it's going to come down to, you take Baylor a couple of years ago, like I don't care who they play.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. Goodness gracious.
They're not outmatched. It doesn't matter who they match up. Just line them up, and they're going to blow through.
They got up in you. That Baylor team, like that was a scary team.
I think the Villanova team that I coached. Oh, the Villanova team I coached against when they had Brunson and Bridges and DiVincenzo and Spellman and Pat. Like there's no bad. They're going to run through whoever.
Yeah.
So look at those two.
This Purdue team's not that.
Yeah. Right. No.
So real quick before you go, Pat, just those two teams that we're throwing out as examples of complementary or I guess opposing versions of the contender who you're not worried about matchups with, right? Those two teams, to me, NBA talent everywhere.
Yeah.
Is there an NBA guy on this Purdue team even? I mean, you would like to say hopefully Zach Edey gets there, but I don't know that I can look you in the eye and say Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are ever going to get there. Now, I don't know. Right. Fletcher's been great, but to me, maybe that's just partially a talent thing too, right?
Yeah. Patric played at that level, so he probably have a better eye for it than me.
Man, it's hard to say. This is a well-coached team right now with guys that don't really turn the ball over too much. You look at Braden Smith and you're like, he's a freshman, right?
Tough.
To be playing at this level for him early on, to start getting that experience and with this level of confidence, you would think their ceiling's only going to continue to go higher. Another quick stat to throw out there, because I started the show off with one. Zach Edey with his 8th straight 20-point game, and this is the longest streak in the last 25 years of a 7-footer plus in the last tied for the longest streak. So I can't see anyone slowing him down anytime soon. But I agree with you, Coach, when you talk about the formula. I don't think they have a guard that can really create their own shot and really give a team a lot of problems. With Mason Gillis out, Caleb First has stepped up, as well as Trey Kaufman-Renn, last 2 games, double digits. It seems as though there is a good amount of balance. And I just look at these next few games that Purdue has. They don't have a big test anytime coming soon. Then they got Nebraska next. I think it's for this team matchup-wise, there's going to have either Edey's going to have to get in foul trouble, or there's going to have to be some way to neutralize him, because the way that it can be the first one to get his own misses oftentimes, just without even, because it's not about being the quicker jumper. It's that he's already has the length and the height to be so much closer to the ball by the time someone else jumps. His dominance is unmatched. And for a guy like me that was pretty physically dominant, when it came to banging with another big, I don't think I have any answers for this guy.
Yeah, I don't know who does. Like and trust me, I watched you play in college. You were a monster, but there's a lot of monsters in the country this year, the year of the big, that are looking at Zach Edey like that's a different level guy. I don't know what that is. And I honestly don't know that the sport has seen somebody like Zach Edey in a while, right? There's been the 7'4", 7'5" guys, but I don't think any of them have been as skilled as Edey is. I don't think any of them have the stamina that Edey does right now. And the production is finally starting to back that up. Like you said, 8 straight games with 20 points. He's got 7 of 9 games this year with double-digit rebounds, 22 rebounds tonight. It's just becoming absurd statistically. So, PY, what'd you end up with? Pretender or contender bucket? Where'd you lie?
They're my contender bucket.
In the contender? Okay.
Contender bucket for sure. Absolutely.
I thought their best chance, and I know we got to move on, was when they had the Carson Edwards group and Matt Harms and Ryan Klein and Travion, and like Carson was explosive, and they still had the big 7-footer that they could throw it into, and they had shooters. They ran into a Virginia team, to your point, Greg, that had like six pros, Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter, and they took them to the brink. So I thought that was they had a really good shot at it. This team's constructed well, but And Braden Smith's going to get better as the season goes, and he's a confident young man. So he's got some swag.
Yeah, every Big Ten fan I know that I've talked to has been like, man, they're going to be so annoying in 2-3 years, because if my hypothesis is right that these guys aren't NBA guys, they're probably in Purdue uniforms 3 seasons from now.
Yep.
And if they're this good as a freshman backcourt, I don't want to see at all what they look like as a senior backcourt. Just to quickly, we'll move to a new team here in just a second, and Rob Doster's going to be very excited about the team we're going to move to. But I would put them in the contender bracket. Or in the pretender bracket. I'm sorry. I view this team as the Big Ten typical. They're going to run through this conference. I think they should win the conference. I think Zach Edey's the National Player of the Year. I think he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. But then I think they run into trouble in March. And I hate that I have to say that with the conference that I love, but it's a different brand of basketball. And it's matchup dependent. Like you said, LaVall, like, I don't think this team is going to get 6 consecutive matchups that allows them to play the way they want to play, whether that's, some full court pressure that might rattle the freshman backcourt, whether that's a stretch 5 that's going to make Zach Edey have to guard the perimeter. I think there's multiple different ways that teams could pose a nightmare matchup for Purdue that they're highly unlikely to see in the Big Ten Conference, a conference that's built around some of the best big men in the country. There is no big man better than Zach Edey. So I think he's going to help them win the Big Ten. But outside of that, if we're talking national title, I'm still a little bit skeptical. So that's 2-1 contender for the Boilermakers. We now move to the Big East, where we have the UConn Huskies, a team that the last show I hosted with you last week, LaVall, was on the rundown. We didn't even get to them. We talked about like 10 different other teams before.
You did that on purpose. Just
that on purpose? Yeah.
Hey, no comment on that. I know my boss, Rob Doster's looking at me sideways about it. Look, I can't avoid it anymore. Okay. You're welcome. UConn wins by 21 points tonight against Pat's Florida Gators. I called this wrong. I thought Florida was going to get the upset tonight. I did. I called this. I should have talked to you. I saw the text about 10 minutes into the game, and that's on me for not reaching out to you first. But I was skeptical of this UConn team still, because this was their first true road game, and because they had a real good 4-game winning streak, a lot of neutral site games in that run in the tournament. And to be honest with you, Alabama was the only team that I would consider good to great that I think they had seen. Yeah. And I've only seen Florida a couple times this year, was not aware at all that this offense was in the spot that it was tonight. And I'm sure, Pat, you can tell us more about that. But I think this offense struggled tonight because of how good UConn was defensively. I mean, they have animals on that side, on the wings, and they took everything that Florida wanted to do and just spun it on them the whole game. So, Pat, let's go to you first. We are still doing the contender or pretender game, but first, in this game tonight,
we got to choose first and then explain.
Yeah, well, why was UConn so good tonight, Pat?
Yeah, well, first off, UConn, this is my first time getting a chance to see a full 40-minute game, and I knew the position that Florida was in offensively before this, where they have had their struggles ever since that West Virginia game, getting thumped by 30. We had a real look in the mirror type. What type of team we're going to be? And UConn showed up and showed out. They, to me right now, are absolute contenders. Just execution alone, to the game plans, to being able to take away the strengths. Not that Florida has been a offensive juggernaut this year. I think the lineup has changed 6, 7, 8 times already, and we're 9 games in. Being able to take Castleton out of the game, he struggles with another big man with length. Someone that can be physical with him. UConn gave Florida what they wanted, and oftentimes Florida shoots themselves out of the game. They settle for empty possessions, bad shots early in the shot clock. UConn flies back on offense to their spots. You can tell it's a very well coached team, getting to their spots, setting great screens, finding Donovan Clingan. Oh my gosh. That's why I look at the backup
center, by the way.
What's that?
He's the backup center, by the way.
And I was listening to Jimmy Dykes, and he's like, "This is probably the best backup center in the league," and he's a freshman or in all the country right now. And I can't disagree with him. I think when you look at Adam Adam Sanogo and Donovan Clingan, if UConn were to match up with Purdue, I think UConn will give Purdue a lot of problems with their size, with their speed, with their shooting. Jordan Hawkins was awesome off screens, so smooth. I really didn't see many flaws with this UConn team at all. I was like, Florida, if you don't start taking care of the ball, I mean, I'm surprised it wasn't a 30-point game, honestly, because there was nothing easy for Florida in this entire game.
Douster's going to love me for this. I'm 2 hands up on Connecticut contender.
Hey,
and here's why. Again, like I said, right now, defensively, they're one of the best in the country. Right, defensively, they are 4th in the KenPom. They are 8th offensively. So they're going to bottle you up defensively. They've shown that. They beat every high major team they played by double digits. Firepower. So now you start talking, okay, take away Sanogo. Well, you got Jordan Hawkins. He's making 3 threes a game. He can go for 30. You got Tristan Newton. He's averaging 11 and 5 and 4, and he can go. You got Alex Caravan. He pick and pop big, and he can get you 20. Patric just said it. You got Clingan off the bench. He was the MVP in Portland at the PK Invitational. You got Calcaterra, a hired hitman coming in from San Diego. His 15 minutes can get you for 15 points if you're not careful. So it's hard to find. They're top 5 in the country in shot quality right now. Danny runs great. He runs his sets, right? They're long and delayed, so they keep you on defense. He's going to get Sanogo in the middle third of the court. They're going to run Jordan Hawkins off actions. The only thing, so they got a matchup and a dominant player. The only thing is how dynamic. They had RJ Cole last year when games got tight. And he was a dude in the pick and roll, and you had to decide if you're going to trap him, he could find the other guy. I didn't even talk about Andre Jackson off the bench, who's averaging 4 assists a game, and maybe the best athlete in the country. Right. I almost forgot about him. So I don't know many weaknesses, right? If they're getting hurt with a matchup with a big, say you got a pick and pop 5 man, they can just throw Caravan at the 5 and play small and switch. So they can beat you in a number of ways on offense. They can guard you multiple ways on defense. And they have the X factor, Greg, and I think the X factor is this. We played for a national title when I was an assistant at Michigan, and we made the run because Trey Burke said when he came back, we're going to play for a national championship. And our guys had a belief and they had a chip on their shoulder. The thing that trumped us was Louisville had Kevin Ware, who had broken his leg. So they had something they were playing for, right? I played against Florida when they were playing for a back-to-back national they had something they were playing for that was this thing that motivated the group and lifted them to another. UConn hadn't won a tournament game since 2016. Now they're a member of the Big East. I think that is a game changer for them getting out of the American Conference. So they've got something they're playing for with a huge chip and an unbelievable amount of talent. It's hard to find a flaw with Connecticut.
Yeah, I'm right there with both you guys. 2 thumbs up, contender for me. I had seen Connecticut a little bit this year. This is the first game I'm just totally blown away. And I think I sort of shrugged off a lot of these growing signs of stardom from different guys as just small sample size. They can't possibly continue to play this well. No, yeah, maybe they can. Jordan Hawkins is that good. The thing with him for me, it's the attempts. Like he's going to get his 7-8 threes a game up just within the motion. They're looking
good too. They're good looks.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they're forced. Like normally when you see a guy with that type of gaudy attempts, there's some questionable shot selection or just some questionableness nature behind it. Nothing with him at all. Like the whole team embraces that. Clingan, I think they correctly identified he's the best backup big in the country. I mean, Colin Castleton is a damn good center. And Colin Castleton was the 3rd best big on the floor tonight, and it wasn't close.
Yeah. He was 1 of 9 in the first half. Colin Castleton.
I'm wildly impressed by this team and how they can do it on both sides of the ball. And I think Hurley deserves a lot of credit for putting some gap pieces together in the portal this year too with Tristan Newton. I mean, he's been a very good floor general for him so far. Calcaterra, like you mentioned, off the bench, double digits tonight. This team's top 6, top 7 is tough. And I think a lot of people in the Big East, it's been Villanova for years. Then this year, maybe it was Creighton, the Big Eyes. Now it's UConn.
And the other thing is, like, injuries are a factor right now. We just talked about Cam Whitmore coming back. So, unfortunately, that's a fact. Like, they have insurance. I mean, Hassan Diarra is still on the team, and with Kleeman as your backup big, say something. They've got depth and insurance policies. If something happens, they still have Naeem Aline, right, sitting there not getting that many minutes, but we know what he's capable of.
Would anybody go so far as to say they think UConn might be the best team in the country right now? You don't have to, but I'm just curious because I don't know who is the best team right now.
I'm close.
I'm close
with
as well.
Connecticut.
Okay.
I just say, it's just that, like I said, multiple ways that they can get you. And if they're having an off night, they're one of the best offensive rebound teams in the nation.
Right.
So that's the thing with them in Houston. Like, okay, say you do a good job defending them on the first shot. The second shot is going to be the issue because both of those programs, they put the bubble up and it is war in practice. And so they're averaging 13 offensive rebounds a game. So
what, the bubble practices? What?
Yeah.
People don't know about that. When that bubble goes on the rim, just know it's not about making shots today. This is a physical. There's no fouls. This is you're not friends today with your teammates. That's for sure. Ain't no friendships.
No,
you probably won your fair share of battles when the bubble was up, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I won my fair share, but it wasn't my favorite. It's still not my favorite thing to do.
No.
Yeah, there's probably not too many teams in the country I'd want to participate in that with, but especially not UConn, especially not this team. And we just named a lot of things we love about them. I feel like we barely even mentioned their best player, Adama Sanogo, who, I mean, a quiet 17-7 tonight. He had foul trouble a little bit, but he's a beast and he's back for a reason.
That's a great touch.
Yeah, he's special. All right, so that's 6 thumbs up collectively between the 3 of us on UConn. Come back next episode. We'll tell you whether or not UConn is definitively the best team in the country. I have a feeling that's going to be a conversation in the next few weeks. We're about halfway through the show. I can't believe how it's flying by. If you're listening to us on the Sirius XM app, we appreciate you. We are presented by Bet Rivers. You can find us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Click subscribe if you're over there. Jump in the comment section as well. We're always keeping our eye on those. I'm Greg Waddell. We got Patric Young. We got LaVall Jordan. And we're going to move back to SEC country here. So, Pat, I'm going to throw it your way again first. This is the Razorbacks, the Muss-Bus. A dicey game last night against UNC Greensboro. They survived, though, which is, that's notable for a team as young as they are to be taken the distance by an underdog and come out unscathed. Better to learn from a win than it is to learn from a loss. We have to mention the note, Trevon Brazile is out for the season. That's a very important piece of bad news for the Razorbacks. So let's play the game. Pretender, contender, Arkansas Razorbacks. Can they win the national championship this season? What do you think, Pat?
Without Brazile, with the level that he was playing, it's twofold because Arkansas have been playing so well without standout freshman Nick Smith Jr. Anthony Black has been sensational, and I think I apologized on last show of underestimating how great he is as a freshman right now. But Brazile, he brought a dynamic, some flashes that I saw of him in Missouri last year. I'm like, man, if he's just in the right spot, someone that just really gives him the green light to go, because he wasn't taking bad ones. He was running the floor, he's athletic, he could finish, really seemed to have a natural feel for the game. With him being out on the season, I think it does. His shot blocking ability alone and protecting the rim, because this Arkansas team, they gamble a lot defensively. They do turn teams over. So if I wanted to hang my hat on anything to say that they'd be a contender, it's because of their defense. This is a team. Coach Musselman is such a sensational coach at getting his guys to dive in and finding those mismatches and attacking those things continuously over and over and over again. Are they still a contender with losing Brazile? Because he could spread the floor. He was shooting it well from 3. I don't want to get shot by this one because before Brazil got injured, I thought Arkansas was the best team in the SEC. With him being out, I'm probably gonna go with them being a pretender. I'm gonna go with them being a pretender. I haven't seen enough from Nick Smith Jr. yet I believe he's going to find a rhythm. I haven't seen really much anything from Jordan Walsh, being the stud that he projected to be, being 5-star, knowing with his 6'7" height and 7'3" wingspan, that he's going to be able to disrupt and cause a lot. The Mitchell brothers are going to have to step up with Brazil being out. I'm going to need to see Nick Smith Jr. Carry this team a little bit more, and then I'll change my opinion. But with Brazil being out, how well he was playing, they're going to be pretenders for me for winning the national championship.
LaVall, you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think again, that matchup, like, he was the matchup in terms of the pick and pop big. His shot blocking ability allowed them, like Patrick said, to gamble. They're forcing the 18 turnovers. They'll have to change maybe a little bit of how they play defensively with him out now. And then they're not a great shooting team when you talk about, they've got Black, who can get going, and Ricky Council, who's, those guys are undeniable. Nick Smith. Now they got 3 dudes.
Ricky Council's awesome.
They've got firepower, right?
Yeah.
They don't shoot it great, and their assist rate is only 48%. And I always said, hey, if you can be 52% or better, balls popping when you look at teams like Purdue and Connecticut who have high assist rates. So they've got some isolation players that are super duper talented. But I just think losing Brazil hurts defensively too much, and that was where they could count on that every night. They'll be really good. They'll still find ways to win. Coach Muss he'll scheme it up and coach it up.
He will.
But in terms of national championship, good. If you had to say it today, and their ceiling, Brazil, he was such a key piece of it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys again. A lot of agreeing tonight, which is unfortunate for this type of show from me. I got to bring the contradictory style to this. But no, I basketball, to me, the best teams, right? It's not often just who's got the most talented guys. It's how do they fit together, right? And I have questions what this team is going to look like without Brazil now, in that sense, because I'd feel a lot better about them if rather than even one of the 3 guards, right? If you want to call it Blacksmith Council, who are all awesome. They're all dudes. They can all win their individual matchup. I'd almost prefer if they just had 2 of those guys and had just a dead-eye spot shooter to space the floor who didn't need the ball in his hands, or a post threat that was a little more reliable than the Mitchell brothers, maybe a lot more reliable than the Mitchell brothers, right? So I liked what I saw from them thus far, even though it was a little bit erratic, and even though there was some shot selection stuff that I didn't love, and they're still trying to work Nick Smith back into it. They've been talented enough to survive. The question is, what does that look like without Brazil now for me? They've got some time, luckily. I mean, the conference play is starting up here, but they're going to get at least, through the holiday before they really get into the meat of the SEC schedule. So hopefully they can get some continuity there and they can be firing on all cylinders, because I do still think they can be a threat to win this conference, just maybe not at the national level as some of these other teams we're talking about. Let's move back to the Big Ten territory here. One more that I'm curious. We might be a little divided here, maybe not.
Yeah, I think so.
The Hoosiers, Indiana tonight with I think it ended up being a 16-point win without looking at the box score itself, against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. No Hood Schifino tonight, but some guys were making shots. Miller Kopp was making shots. Trey Galloway was making shots. Trace Jackson Davis nearly had a triple-double tonight. And this is a team.
He did have a triple-double.
I was going to say not nearly. He had one.
Did he finish with the triple-double? I thought he missed it by a rebound. Did they give him a rebound?
Yeah.
They're playing in Bloomington, Greg.
That's on me. That's on me. I got to know Bloomington better than that. You're right, LaVall. Well, congrats, TJD. Triple-double.
The third in program history. You think about that now. Like Isaiah Thomas, played there. You think all the players that came through Indiana, the third in program history, that's impressive.
Had I known that, I would have cheers to you, Trace Jackson Davis. That's on me. I flipped the channel away to watch the end of this Pitt game. That's the last time I'll ever do that. LaVall, let's throw it to you here then, though. National title contender or pretender, the Hoosiers?
I at this point, and when I look at their ceiling, I say pretender. Not that they're not good and they're going to challenge for a Big Ten championship. Again, firepower. Like if people you talk about when they went to Rutgers, and Trace Jackson Davis doesn't have a Trace Jackson Davis typical night. Where else is it going to come from? I think he had 4 turnovers in that one, and so did Xavier Johnson, who's been playing tremendous basketball. He had 6 turnovers in that one. Now Miller Kopp hit 5 threes, but their lack of shooting, consistent shooting, they nailed them tonight. I think they had 11 or 12 threes. Tamar Bates got going. Trey Galloway made them tonight, but consistent shooting, and they're only hitting 6 a game. And they're not monsters on the glass like we talked about UConn and Houston. They're only getting 9 a game. So if you can find a strategy to stop Trace or contain Trace, then the firepower around that. How's that go? Now Hood Schifino's maybe an X factor, because you when North Carolina came in there, he dropped the first like 8 points. It was like, this kid, can he consistently bring that to the table? So that they can make that the deep run. Their defense is phenomenal this year. I just don't, do they have firepower? And then down the stretch, who's got the ball in their hands to make the play?
Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, Xavier Johnson, 6 turnovers last game, 7 turnovers today, in a loss. Man, TJD is outstanding. He's sensational. He has such a feel for the game. It was 1 rebound he just snatched with 1 hand.
Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I can't do that. And I got big hands, but not big enough to palm the ball. You look back at that Rutgers game and the productivity, you had 0. You had a goose egg from Trey Galloway. You had 2 from Bates that came off today that had 19 off the bench. And then obviously Galloway had 20 today. Where's the consistency? Miller Kopp has been great in these last few games. He finds a shot, he gets to the basket. You think he's only going to be a shooter, but he finds a way to get to the basket. I just don't see. I can see them being maybe a Sweet 16 team. I think that might be my ceiling for Indiana, but I definitely don't see them as a national championship contender. Trace Jackson Davis is one of those guys you want to see in the tournament and cheer for and hope he can make a big run, and he possibly can. And the guy can pass it, he can finish, he can push it, he can protect the basket. But will that be enough? Because it's going to come down. You get to the tournament, usually it always comes down to the guards. Is there enough guard play if he gets into foul trouble or is limited to help them win a game, to win a few games to make a run? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Hood Schifino is the piece that come March, I think could be the swing piece for this team. He's been good this season. Now he's been out as well. So I don't think we can necessarily judge him for not being great at this point, because I don't know if he's healthy and I don't know when he's going to be fully healthy again. But 37% from the floor this season, only 31% from 3. The question with him was the jumper. He is averaging 4 assists a game in a complimentary role off the ball most of the time next to Xavier Johnson. That sticks out to me. The question mark for me that keeps me from buying in, because I want to buy into this Indiana team. Anytime you add as many guys who have played as many minutes in college basketball as Trace has, as Miller Kopp has, as Xavier Johnson has, and you add a couple 5-star freshmen like Hood Schifino and Malik Reneau, I want to buy into that team. That's the type of mix I want from a team on paper. Right. What holds me back is that those 3 guys I mentioned, Trace, Miller, and Xavier Johnson, 10 combined years of college basketball before this season. Not once has any of the 3 of them on multiple different teams ever finished higher than 8th in their conference. And that's not all their fault, but it's a big leap to go from where Indiana finished in the Big Ten last year with a lot of the same faces to all of a sudden talking national championship.
Yeah.
Let's start with the conference first, and I think they're a contender there. But I want to see it come to fruition first, because we're looking in that same state right now, talking about the Boilermakers with the National Player of the Year with a bunch of new faces. And I'd like to see Indiana win that battle before we start.
That'll be a heck of a matchup because there's some, Trace and his ability to drive, and Shafino's a big guard. Braden Smith's not. That'll be a fun game. That'll be a fun matchup.
100%. All right. So the next thing on my rundown actually fits perfectly into this conversation. It's some conference talk. We're going to quickly go through the Big Ten, and then we will move to the Big East, and we'll finish with the ACC here to wrap the show. But starting with the Big Ten, feels a little wide open to me right now. We talked about Purdue. We talked about Indiana already in this show. Team we didn't talk about, Illinois, one of the biggest wins of the season last night in New York, Madison Square Garden. They knock off Texas in a game that very easily could have been a loss, maybe should have been a loss. They were down much of the second half. Some big-time plays from freshman Jaden Epps, Coleman Hawkins with a big skip pass assist, and then Terrence Shannon just took over in overtime, had, I think, 8 straight points to help them separate a little bit. To me, that feels like the top tier of this Big Ten conference. But even beyond that, you've got a team like Maryland, who just suffered their first loss of the season, but had been a Ken Pom darling, looks great under Kevin Willard in year 1. You've got Michigan State lurking, a big bounce-back win tonight in Happy Valley against Penn State. And you've got Iowa, who, yes, they got handed an L on a silver platter from Duke last night. But still, Fran McCaffrey's going to be a factor in this conference with Chris Murray and with what that team can do on offense. So I guess
don't ever count out Wisconsin. Did you say Wisconsin?
I didn't say Wisconsin.
Don't count out Wisconsin.
I didn't say Wisconsin.
All they do is finish 4th or better every year. All they do is finish 4th or better every year.
Is that going to happen this year, LaVall?
Why wouldn't it? It's what they do. They were the measuring stick when I got to Michigan and we were trying to bring it back up. It was like they're as consistent as anybody in the conference, and people don't talk about them enough. Obviously, they had the when they were elite with Kaminsky and Decker and Brust and that crew, Bruzewitz and all those guys, Nigel, but they finished 4th or better every year.
It's
like every year.
Hey, as a fan in this conference, I can tell you that is true. Confirmed fact. I'm a little more skeptical. I did personally leave them off my contender list here in the Big Ten. If we're still doing contender, I'll take pretender for the Badgers. Any team where Chucky Hepburn's your best player, count me out for a little bit.
Did you watch him against Marquette?
I watched him against Marquette. He was damn good against Marquette.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's the same guy. It's Chucky Hepburn. It's Trayvon Jackson. It's Trayvon Hughes.
He's got a long way to go to get to Trayvon. He's got a long way to go to get there.
The sophomore. He played 33 games last year and only had 39 turnovers as a freshman.
It's a good number.
Wow. And now he's putting up 20 and that. He's good. Wow. Now, win the Big Ten good, but they're going to be right there. You know that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Listen, we didn't even mention Tyler Wall. I will respect Tyler Wall. I think he's one of the most underappreciated players in the country. But all right, all this leads me to my point. You can pick Wisconsin. We didn't even mention Michigan, LaVall. I don't know that we should at this point. And Jalen Llewellyn out, that's a big question mark. But I feel like we could throw this to anybody on earth and they could pick a different name that's like, well, let's talk about them. Is this the deepest, most open conference in the country right now to you, LaVall?
I do think anybody could win. Anybody could win the Big Ten this year, and I know that grind, for coaching wise, and how it is. You look at Purdue last year when they were sailing and #1 in the country, and then they go to Rutgers and lose. It's going to be up and down, and by the time you get to the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th game in the Big Ten, it's like miserable. The grind and the physicality of the league. So I like Illinois because I think they got firepower and they got versatility. They can go inside the Dana Danger. They can play 5 out with Coleman Hawkins. The 2 little guards, Epps and Clark, are only going to get better. And Terrence Shannon is a legit guy. And now that he's making 2 threes a game and shooting 38% from 3, good luck, because he was already going to shoot 6, 7, sometimes 12, 15 free throws a night. Now you got a real a takeover guy on your hands, and Mayer, who showed up last night, 5 for 5 from 3. So you got on any given night, Epps can get you for 20, Shannon's gonna get you for 20, Danger could go for 20, Coleman Hawkins can make threes, and you've got so many different weapons that somebody can save them on the night where another guy doesn't have it. They're one of the teams in the league that has that. And so I like them. Maryland, I think Kevin plays a different style than the Big Ten that they're not used to. I always think when you get to tournament play, that's what typically most of the Big Ten teams play similar. And so then you run into the tournament and people play different styles, and you haven't seen that in conference play. Kevin Willard he's going to change defenses. He's going to mix it up. Offensively, they play different, and that's going to keep them relevant all year. Wisconsin will be there. Iowa, Fran's they'll be right there because they're good coaches. And then Michigan State, if they get fully healthy, once they get back, they're right there.
Pat, you were shaking your head when we mentioned Michigan a little bit. I got just out of curiosity. You're not throwing them in this group with everybody else at this point?
They're not on my top tier. I am a fan of Maryland right now with what Kevin Willard has done. Obviously, they just lost to Wisconsin, whom you chose not to put down in the rundown for some reason. I was scratching my head. I'm like, man, Wisconsin just won and beat Maryland. What's going on? And then Rutgers had they beat, who did they end up beat earlier this year? Wisconsin, or was it Illinois?
They beat Indiana.
Indiana. There we go. Then yeah, that's right. Gosh, so many games, so little time. So it's really hard to say who can win. I do think it's wide open. I do think this conference, as you attested to earlier, LaVall, about this team, the league just going to beat itself up, especially when it comes to home court advantage. But I can see this being a 7-bid league into the tournament. I don't see why not. Won't be surprised if Juwan Howard has done something, has some guys ready to step up, and Michigan makes a late run again.
It's just
I haven't seen too much Iowa.
Their guards keep them out of that top group for me. Michigan. Yeah, Doug is good now. I've seen him for years, but they don't have enough. Again, when you run into, like I said before, when you run into dynamic guards, can you handle them? They ran into Arizona State and just got beat with speed.
Oh, yeah.
Because the guards are too dynamic. So Wisconsin, they ran into Tyree Appleby at Wake Forest, and he dropped 32 on them.
Hasn't he been hooping?
Yeah, so it's not just do you have a guard like a Jaden Ivey or somebody that can you defend when you run into a guard that's dynamic, right? Because if you have that guy in the Big Ten, you make a run. You got Trey Burke. We had Trey Burke. When you have a dynamic, there haven't been a ton of them. When you got Carson Edwards, you can make a run. You got Trey Burke, you can make a run. But you can list a small group of just ultra dynamic guards that have come through the Big Ten, right, Greg?
Yeah.
But it's on the other side. Can you defend them when you run into that guy? Right.
I actually want to just ask you quickly, and then we'll jump to the other conference, but I'm so curious, and the Michigan fan in me can't not ask it, LaVall. What happens with Doug McDaniel now? I mean, you mentioned you've seen him for years. Big opportunity for a guy who's going to be a 10-minute guy. What do you think he looks like in this sudden responsibility role?
This sounds weird. I almost think it might be better for him to just take the training wheels off and jump in and go. He is dynamic. Now he can scoot and he's got some wiggle. Does he shoot it well enough? But when I went to their practice and I talked to Juwan and their staff afterwards, and he was the guy that said, man, he could be a game changer for them because they have length. They've got Hunter, they've got Jet, who's a shot maker, Jet Howard. They didn't have a guy that could just get separation, get 2 feet in the paint without a ball screen and make plays for other people. And Doug can do that. You're going to have to live with and let him grow through the mistakes to get to your ceiling, I think.
Yeah, I've called him a beautiful disaster this season. He's one of the most fun, even when his negatives happen. It's a fun watch, and his moments of brilliance are very brilliant.
Dog in him too. Patrick, you like playing with him. He's a tough dude. He's got some dog.
I love that.
He's a DMV guy, isn't he?
He's a DMV guy.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. DMV guard, man.
That's all you really know. Yeah.
Give me those. All right, let's move. Let's go to the Big East now. We talked to UConn earlier, and I sort of alluded to this. I think Creighton was crowned in the offseason a little bit, at least as everybody's quote-unquote favorite, or just the team that everyone's excited about.
What the heck?
Yeah, what is up with that, Pat? Let's go right in. What's up with that?
Here's the thing, Patrick. I coached against them last year. They had Ryan Hawkins and McConnell, Alex McConnell, who transferred in from Duke. But the other guys weren't. Again, when Creighton had firepower, it it was like Ballack and Zagorowski and Jefferson and Mahoney. And when they're in their pick and rolls, where you're going to tag from and who you're going to help off of. You know, when Christian Bishop was there playing 5 out, and I think Kalkbrenner was a freshman. And last year you had places where you could help and live with, you know, guys shooting the basketball. We went under screens on Nembhard as a freshman. I don't think you can do that anymore. He's proven, but the other guys, I don't know consistently, like Creighton offensive firepower that I saw
Right.
when I first got into the Big East.
Right.
I don't know if they're that. You know, Kalkbrenner's a matchup, but they're going to have their nights where they make 12, 15 threes, but I don't know if they're going to average like Creighton normally does, 9 or 10 threes a game.
Well, I almost think you shoot yourself out of a game when, you know, you're not shooting well. It's a slump, and now teams are just going to go to the point they're going to let you shoot. You know, you're not going to be running as much pick and roll, taking Kalkbrenner out of the game. Trey Alexander, Creighton started shooting pretty well beginning of the season. From the 3-point line, Trey Alexander was shooting well. Nembhard was shooting okay. Kaluma was knocking some down. And you told me, I think last time we were talking about Kaluma, how awesome he is.
He's the
he's
guy. I'm like, man, I'm wanting him to prove me right because
he had
good.
some games after that, but you know, these last two, it's just like, you know, you want to just scratch your head and say, hey, we need to forget these last 2 games, guys, and let's go back to who we are and not rely and stay balanced and let our defense lead the offense. Because
how much of it was travel, Patrick? Like, you've traveled coming back from Maui. I've been a part of that. That's hard. That's a monster to come off Maui and recover and play. Like, and coaches talk about it all the time. Going to Maui is great. The highest level competition is the best tournament. But coming back that next week to recover from it, you know, so difficult. maybe it's, you know, the travel, and then they went right to Texas, high level game, you know. So I'm a little bit of it to that because that's hard to do. I've been a part of teams that had to try to do that.
Yeah, I jumping in on Creighton quickly, the shooting ups and downs have been interesting for me with this team because I trust the individuals. Like, you go up and down the list, I trust them all as shooters, especially Baylor Shireman, who his 3-point attempts have actually gone up from where he was last year, which shocked me when I went to look that up. He's playing a much more just like gunner catch and shoot role on this team. And I think some of those attempts like are, at least visually to me, it's like he knows he needs to play such a sniper sharpshooter role that sometimes he's taken some crazy quick ones. Yeah. I think it's hurt him a little bit. I think he's a better shooter than the 36.5% shooter he's been so far this season. But Alexander's the guy to me that unlocks them. If he gets up to that next level, then, you know, you still have to account for the guys you mentioned, Kalkbrenner and Nembhard. But
he's shooting well. He's shooting 40%. It's not the percentage. It's the volume. It's the number. Like, when they've had Greg's offensive team, when Dougie McBucket's in there, they had 2 or 3 guys that were making two or more a game. Mm-hmm. And right now, Shireman's the one. He's almost 3 a game makes, and it's volume. But the other guys, like, the percentages are better. But can you hit 5? You know, can you hit 4 or 5 in a game and spread it around? You know, 2 or 3 each.
Yeah, they need more than just Shireman to be that type of volume threat to me. All right, let's move quickly to the ACC. We got 2 minutes left in the show. We're gonna spend a little more time on this, but we've been all over the place tonight. That's on me. The ACC last year, the narrative all season long was, is this a 1 bid, 2 bid conference? What is wrong with this conference? And then obviously in March, we all had to be proven wrong. We had to look like idiots as Duke and North Carolina make the run to the Final Four. Miami knocks off Jabari Smith and Auburn. So I feel like we're just reliving this. Like, I'm watching scores. I'm looking at box scores. I feel like we're just doing this all over again. Although I think the start to the season's been a little bit stronger this year than it was last year. So let's just go around the horn. Obviously, you've got Virginia, who is number 3 in the country right now. You've got Duke, solid 9-2, top 25 team right now. Miami and Virginia Tech are both 9-1. They're not ranked, but they're in the conversation. But how many bids do we think this conference gets? How many teams do you trust to be tournament teams come end of the year? Pat, what do you got for this? Yeah.
Oh, I thought the question had for, like, if the season ended today. I
You
had
can go that route too.
If
What would
the
it be?
season ended today, I was just going to have 3 bids because, Miami hasn't really beaten anybody yet. And I look at Virginia Tech, they have the highest field goal percentage in the ACC right now, Duke and Virginia. I would just take those 3 as of right now if the season ended today.
Okay. LaVall?
I'm gonna go with 6. I think Virginia Tech, good. Duke, the obvious. I think Miami's, you watch them, they got guard
They ain't
play.
playing nobody, man.
They haven't, but they got guards.
They got
so
guards.
when you give Coach Larinaga guards, and with Wong and Pack, Wong had 22 at halftime tonight, went for 36 tonight. They've got the dynamic guards that it takes. I think NC State, Wake Forest, and Clemson's kind of right there. Like those guys will fight it out for a few more bids outside of those top groups. So I think they'll be fighting for 6.
So we didn't name them, and this is if the season ended today, hypothetically. But let's end the show on this because we're right at time. Pretender or contender? North Carolina. Just to make the tournament. Pretender or contender? LaVall.
Oh, to make the tournament, they're contender.
They'll contender.
Okay, we let you off the hook there.
They'll figure that out and make the tournament.
The two of you are lucky we're up on time because we're letting you off the hook on this right now. This was the Field of 68 After Dark. We appreciate everybody for coming out, listening, watching, whatever you did to find this program for us. We will be back again tomorrow evening, breaking down everything on Friday night's slate of college basketball. For Patric Young, for LaVall Jordan, my name is Greg Waddell.